What if the person telling you everything's fine is actually the one smiling while you burn out? Because secret hatred doesn't show up with yelling or pounding fists on the table. It shows up in small details, in comments that seem harmless, in that strange energy that leaves you doubting yourself, like you're always doing something wrong. And the worst part is, because it's someone close to you, your mind looks for excuses not to see it. It feels easier to believe it's just how they are, that they don't mean it that way, that maybe I'm overreacting. Sure, and while you keep explaining it away, they keep sharpening the knife without anyone noticing. Stay with me. Gabriel here. Welcome to the Stoic Garden. Today we're going to walk through 10 clear signs that someone close to you secretly hates you, so you can see things clearly, without paranoia, and know exactly how to protect your peace, your dignity, and your self-respect, when no one else is going to do it for you. And yes, the last sign isn't the loudest one, it's the most dangerous, because it's the one that breaks you from the inside if you don't catch it in time. Now, let's begin. 1. Notice if they downplay your achievements and always take the shine off them. It's not that they don't feel happy for you, it's worse. They turn what you did into something small, something accidental, something anyone could have pulled off if they'd had your luck. And you, coming from a place of good faith, start wondering if it really was that big of a deal, if you're making too much of it, if maybe you should talk less about your wins so you don't make anyone uncomfortable. How convenient. They don't attack you head-on, they smother your light with a napkin. The sign is easy to recognize once you stop making excuses for it. You share good news and their response has no spark in it, just an, "Oh, okay," with the energy of a paperwork clerk. You work hard for months and what you get back is, "Yeah, but you still have a long way to go." You celebrate something and they stain it with some petty detail. And if someone else congratulates you, they jump in fast with an explanation that brings you back down, as if your success was some statistical fluke and not your character in action. What a lot of people don't understand is that this isn't honesty or being realistic. It's a need for control. If your progress reminds them of their own stagnation, they'll try to shrink you down to their size. If you grow, their place in your life changes. And that scares them, so they use the oldest trick in the book, making you doubt your own worth so you never feel entitled to demand respect. Think about how it feels in your body when it happens. It's not just an awkward conversation, it's a sting. You walk away with less energy than you came in with. You start measuring your words, editing yourself, hiding the good things, so you don't have to hear another backhanded comment disguised as casual conversation. And here comes the question that matters in the middle of all that noise. Is this really someone who loves you, or just someone who can tolerate you as long as you don't shine too brightly? Seneca, who was anything but naive, talked about this when he spoke of envy and said that comparing our fortune with that of others makes us forget the blessings we already have and multiplies unnecessary desires. He saw it clearly because he lived it firsthand. People are not always bothered by your mistakes. A lot of the time they're bothered by your progress. And when they can't stop you with facts, they try to stop you with atmosphere, with tone, with that feeling of, it's not that big a deal. Now, I'm not telling you to become paranoid or walk around with a magnifying glass in your hand. I'm telling you to watch for patterns. Once might be clumsiness. Repeated with intent with that quiet consistency is something else. And once you see it, you stop begging for validation from the wrong mouth. Because the problem isn't that they don't applaud you. The problem is that they're trying to train you not to applaud yourself either. The Stoic response here is not to argue your achievement, not to convince them, not to give them a PowerPoint presentation on why you did deserve it. The response is internal and practical. Lower your exposure. Share less with the people who drain you. Celebrate with the people who add to your life. And when the comment comes that tries to strip your value away, don't get pulled into explaining yourself. A calm, "I value it, and that's that," cuts deeper than 1,000 arguments. Dignity doesn't ask for permission. And if you're wondering why this hurts so much, it's because the poison comes from close range. It's not some stranger's opinion that gets to you. It's the one from someone who is supposedly in your circle. That's why this sign matters so much, because it teaches you to choose more carefully who gets access to your life. And once you spot the person who minimizes you, the next level of the same strategy appears, the one who turns you into a spectacle so others can laugh at you. 2. See if they correct or ridicule you with jokes in front of other people. This is a social power move, not an accident. They don't do it one-on-one to help you. They do it in public to place themselves above you. And then comes the classic trick. The smile, the light tone, and the go-to line, "I was just joking, don't take it so seriously." Of course. Because somehow you're the problem for not enjoying being sanded down in front of everyone. There are corrections that build you up, and corrections that humiliate you. The difference is in the timing and the intention. If someone truly wants to help you, they do it with respect, in private, without turning you into an example. But when they interrupt you, contradict you over tiny details, or put you on the spot right when there's an audience, they're not looking out for your growth. They're looking out for their ego. And the worst part is that a lot of the time they dress it up as humor. They throw a comment your way that leaves you looking foolish, and if you react, they call you too sensitive. If you don't react, they repeat it because they saw it works. It's a perfect trap for them. Win or lose, you're the one who ends up looking like you can't take a joke. Funny how it always works out in their favor, isn't it? Half of people fall for this because they confuse putting up with it for being strong. And no, being strong is not smiling while someone disrespects you. Being strong is refusing to let anyone train you to accept scraps of dignity, because a repeated joke is a message, and a repeated message in front of other people is a label they're trying to stick on your forehead. Ask yourself this when it happens. If someone really cared about you, would they need to put you down to make other people laugh? Would they need to correct you like you were a child? Would they need to look superior in public just to feel secure? If the answer is no, then stop calling it humor. Call it what it is, contempt in costume. The Stoic response here is elegance, not a scene. You don't become a volcano because that's what they want, but you also don't become a doormat because that's what they expect. You become clear. A brief boundary, spoken without trembling and without insults, changes the whole atmosphere. Something as simple as, "Don't talk to me like that," or "Don't make those kinds of jokes with me," while looking them in the eye. No nervous laughter, no explaining yourself, no apologizing for existing. And if they tell you you're overreacting, perfect. They just confirmed it for you. Because someone who respects you adjusts their behavior. They don't accuse you of being wrong for feeling uncomfortable. The person who gets offended by your boundary is the same one who benefited from you not having one. There it is, plain as day. It wasn't a joke. It was a habit. Now, if they do it once and they understand it can be corrected, if they do it twice and laugh it off, they've revealed themselves. And if they do it all the time, then the boundary is no longer just a sentence. It's a decision. You pull back. You reduce closeness. You change their level of access. Not out of revenge, but out of emotional hygiene, because you are not here to be anyone's clown. And when you start setting those boundaries, something interesting happens. Some people adjust, and others get subtler, smoother, more strategic. That's when the next sign shows up. The person who applauds you when people are watching, but quietly shakes the ground under your feet when no one is looking. 3. Notice if they support you in public but sabotage you in private. This is one of the dirtiest signs because it plays with your trust. In front of other people they praise you, call you talented, pat you on the back, present you as one of my people, and you naturally relax. You think you're safe. But when the doors close, the other face appears, the one that leaves you without support, puts obstacles in your way, and leaves you alone right where it hurts the most. You can see this in small things that, strangely enough, always end up costing you. They say they'll send you a contact and then forget. They promise to help you with something important and suddenly disappear. They give you half the information so you end up looking disorganized. Or worse, they offer you some well-meaning advice that gets you into trouble, then stand back and watch, as if it had nothing to do with them. What's going on here is simple. They want the image of being good to you, but they do not want your real growth. In public, they use you as social decoration, as proof that they are supportive, that they are loyal. In private, they sabotage you because your progress unsettles them. It benefits them if you believe they are your allies, because then you won't suspect them. And while you defend them, they're doing the real damage in the background. Some people confuse this with clumsiness or being busy. Sure, and I could also confuse a wildfire with a campfire if that made life easier. The truth is that genuine support has consistency. It isn't perfect, but it's steady. Fake support, on the other hand, always follows the same pattern. Beautiful words when there's an audience, miserable actions when no one is watching. The way to spot it is not by what they say, but by the repeated outcome. If every time you depend on that person, something falls apart. If every time you share a plan with them, some strange obstacle appears. If every time they see you making progress, they push you to doubt yourself. Slow down, wait, don't get your hopes up. Is it really bad luck? Or are you sharing your life with someone who enjoys quietly tripping you up? Epictetus, who began life as a slave and ended up teaching inner freedom to anyone willing to listen, made it clear with a line worth engraving inside yourself. It is not events that disturb people, but the judgments they form about those events. And the judgment that matters here is this: do not be fooled by appearances. Do not cling to what looks good if what you actually live through with them tells a different story. So what do you do about it without turning yourself into a private investigator? You become more measured. You share fewer plans with people who have not shown consistency. You stop putting your progress in the hands of someone who has already shown you they struggle to see you doing well. You verify, you confirm, and you build independence, not to punish them, but to protect your peace. Life is already hard enough without handing the wheel to someone who enjoys watching you lose control. And when you do that, the tantrum usually comes. They tell you you've changed, that you're distant now, that you think you're too good for them. What a surprise! Sabotage stops working when you're awake. Your consistency bothers them because it cuts off their access. And that's when it becomes obvious it was never support, it was control in disguise. And there's still something even more revealing, because one thing is sabotaging you in silence, but another is what happens when you fail. That's when the truth slips across their face. 4. Notice whether they react to your mistakes with relief or satisfaction. They do not have to clap or say it out loud. You can see it in their body. That quick smile they try to hide, that "oh wow" that sounds more pleased than concerned. That strange silence when you're doing badly, as if the universe had finally put things back where they belong. And yes, it hurts to admit it, but it hurts even more to live without seeing it. The typical sign is the comment that sounds like help, but smells like judgment. You mess up, and they hit you with an "I told you so" that sounds hungry. They do not ask if you are okay. They ask what happened so they can retell it later. They do not offer you a hand, they offer you a lecture. And when you try to explain yourself, they are not even listening, because what matters to them is not understanding you. What matters is confirming their story that you could not do it, that you did not deserve it, that you were bound to fall. And here the difference between them and a healthy person is brutal. A real friend can point out your mistake, of course, but with respect. They speak to lift you up, not to finish you off. The one who secretly hates you, on the other hand, uses your fall as emotional relief, as if your stumble takes the pressure off them, as if now they no longer have to feel smaller standing next to you. And in the middle of this, I want to ask you something that stings but brings everything into focus. When you fail, does this person come closer, or do they settle into the stands to watch the show? Because there is no confusion there. Pain reveals who is with you and who was competing with you from the very beginning. What makes it even more toxic is that this satisfaction is not always obvious. Sometimes it comes dressed up as exaggerated concern. They make you feel fragile, incapable, like without them you are going to fall apart. And while you are vulnerable, they position you beneath them. They become the savior, so you feel indebted, and if you recover quickly, you can see the disappointment on their face. The Stoic view here is simple, even if it is not comfortable. Adversity is your school, not a stage where other people come to collect tickets. If someone takes pleasure in your mistake, they do not deserve access to your process. They do not deserve your details, your fears, or your next moves, because they are not a confidant. They are a spectator with bad intentions. So you act intelligently. You correct the mistake, learn the lesson, and choose carefully who gets to hear the story. Not out of pride, but out of emotional strategy. You do not hand your open wound to someone who has already shown you they like seeing it bleed. You surround yourself with two kinds of people: the ones who tell you the truth without humiliating you, and the ones who help you get back up without reminding you every minute that you were on the ground. And be careful with this. It is not about hating them back. That would be giving them your energy twice, first through the wound and then through the resentment. It is about placement. You decide where each person belongs in your life. Some people deserve to be known, not consulted. Some people deserve distance, not explanations. And once you start noticing who feels relieved by your downfall, you will also begin to notice something more childish, but just as dangerous. The people who live in constant comparison. The ones who cannot see you shine without turning it into a competition. 5. Watch whether they compete with you for attention and turn everything into a comparison. You talk about something that happened to you and magically, something better, harder, more impressive, more applause-worthy happened to them. You share an achievement and they throw it back with a "me too," but as if life were a stage and only one spotlight could be on at a time. And of course, guess who always wants to be standing under it? This is not conversation. It is a contest. They are not listening to understand you. They are listening for the moment they can slide their story in above yours. If you are doing well, they feel threatened. If you are doing badly, they feel superior. And if you are simply existing, they still need to measure themselves against you. They turn you into a mirror, not a person. And living like that is exhausting because it forces you to prove yourself, justify yourself, and compete for scraps of validation. The sign becomes obvious when you realize nothing can just belong to you without them turning it into a test. If you change jobs, they were already thinking about it. If you get in better shape, they used to look better. If things go well for you, they look for the crack to downplay it. And if things go badly for you, then suddenly they are calm. Funny how the emotional weather always depends on whether you are up or down. In the middle of that dynamic, ask yourself something grounding. When you are with that person, do you feel free to be yourself? Or do you feel like you are in constant competition, as if your whole life were being compared all the time? Because if your own joy makes you feel guilty around someone, that is not affection, that is hidden rivalry. Marcus Aurelius, who was an emperor and still trained himself not to become a slave to his own ego, said it without drama: "Do not depend on the applause of others. Let your satisfaction come from doing what is right." He knew comparison steals your peace because it forces you to live by someone else's mental scoreboard. And the person competing with you for attention does not want your good. They want your place. The Stoic response here is to stop playing. You do not make a scene, you do not step into the ring, and you do not try to beat them at the spotlight game. You simply stop feeding the competition. You become more restrained about what you share, you do not justify yourself, and you do not get pulled into the "me too" exchange. And if they try to turn your story into theirs, you notice it, let it pass, and stay centered. Because when you stop reacting, the game collapses. And if you are afraid of looking bad for not going along with it, think about this. Looking good to someone who wants you beneath them means betraying yourself. Better an honest discomfort than a closeness that shrinks you. What is hard is that these people do not only compete for attention. Sometimes when you truly need something human, respect, support, presence, they turn to ice. And that brings us to the next sign, the one that shows you who is there out of convenience and who is there from the heart. 6. Recognize if they withhold affection, respect, or help, right when you need it most. I am not talking about someone being unavailable all the time. I am talking about that cold pattern where, strangely, whenever you are weak, vulnerable, or in need, they become absent, short, and indifferent. And when you are doing well, that is when they show up, that is when they text, that is when they have opinions, that is when they position themselves close enough to collect some of your light. This sign hits hard because it leaves you with a quiet question in your mind. What did I do wrong? And that is the trick. They train you to believe that asking is a burden, that needing something makes you a problem, that feeling deeply makes you too much. They condition you not to expect the basics, decent treatment. Because if you normalize crumbs, they keep the control. You see it in details that look small on the surface, but repeated often enough become a message. You are going through a hard time and they reply late, dry, as if you were paperwork. You ask for help with something specific and they give you theatrical excuses, but somehow they still have plenty of energy for things that benefit them. You tell them something delicate and they minimize it, change the subject, or throw you a line that leaves you feeling alone inside. And later, if you pull away, they get offended. That is how it works. They leave you without water and get angry when you go looking for a well. And here is another question, one that cannot be answered with pretty words. If you disappeared for a week, would that person worry about you? Or would they only notice they no longer have someone to use as an audience, support system, or emotional backup plan? There is an especially twisted version of this when they withhold affection and turn it into punishment. They speak sweetly to you when you do what they want and withdraw warmth when you set boundaries. That is not love. That is conditioning. And you are not here to be anyone's emotional pet performing tricks for approval. The Stoic response is clear, even if it hurts. You stop begging. You do not argue for affection. You do not negotiate for respect. You observe the pattern, adjust the closeness, reduce the dependence, and become firm. If someone withholds the basics from you when you need them most, they are telling you exactly where you rank in their priorities. Believe them the first time. Because once you start respecting yourself, these people often react with something even more aggressive. They push you until you explode, and then they paint you as the problem. And that is where the next sign comes in. The calculated provocation meant to leave you looking like the unstable one. 7. Notice if they provoke you until you explode, then make you look like the problem. This is a trap with a script already written. First they poke at you with little comments, push you with subtle disrespect, and go looking for a reaction the way someone shakes a can waiting for it to burst. And when it finally does, that is when they suddenly act clean, suddenly become the victim, suddenly deliver the perfect line to bury you. See, you're crazy, you're unstable, you can't talk to people. They do it because it works in their favor. While you are shouting, they look reasonable. While you are reacting, they look mature. And the best part for them is that you end up apologizing for the fire they started with tiny matches, one after another, every day until your patience finally ran out of air. The sign is that pattern where it always ends with the same picture. They throw the stone, you defend yourself, and somehow the conversation is no longer about what they did to you, but about your tone, your face, your reaction. They shift the focus. They get you arguing about your emotion so you forget the cause. And if you try to go back to the real issue, they accuse you of dragging it on. Convenient, isn't it? Here is the question that helps in the middle of that tug of war. What kind of person who respects you needs to push you out of your center, just so they can point at you for losing it? Because that is not a misunderstanding. That is manipulation. It is emotional control through exhaustion. They push you into a position where you look bad and they look good. Musonius Rufus, a Stoic teacher who had no patience for excuses, taught that character is tested in daily life, in what you choose to do when no one is applauding you. And that fits perfectly here because real strength is not winning the argument, it is refusing to hand your dignity over to a cheap provocation. It is not swallowing everything, it is choosing with precision when to speak and how. The Stoic response is not to turn to ice or pretend you do not care, it is something sharper. Pause, brief silence, breathe. And then one sentence that sets the boundary without setting the room on fire. Something like, "I'm not going to talk if you're being disrespectful." And then you leave. No threats, no speech, no performance. You walk away. Because if you stay in that ring, the referee is their ego, and you are always going to lose. And if they say, "Look at you walking away, so dramatic, perfect," that only confirms what they wanted was not resolution, it was a reaction. Peace is protected with decisions, not explanations. When you do not explode, their game has no ending. And when they see they can no longer get a spark out of you, they move to the next method. A quieter one, a more poisonous one. They begin twisting what you say, rewriting your reality until you start doubting your own memory. 8. See if they twist your words and make you doubt your memory and judgment. This does not feel like a blow, it feels like fog. You say something clearly, and they respond as if you said something else entirely. You remember an agreement, and they deny it with absurd confidence. You point out a fact, and they replace it with a version where you come off as dramatic, confused, overreacting, taking it the wrong way. And look, all of us get confused sometimes. But here there is a pattern, not an accident, because somehow the distortion always benefits the same person. It always ends the same way, you doubting yourself, you explaining yourself, you apologizing for things you did not even say the way they are framing them. They are not looking for clarity, they are looking for an advantage. The clearest sign is how you feel afterward. You walk away from the conversation reviewing yourself as if you are automatically the guilty one. You start thinking, Maybe I did say it that way. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I'm being unfair. And not because you are humble, but because they pushed you into distrusting your own judgment. In the middle of it, ask yourself something that cuts through the fog. If you were really wrong, why does that person need to twist your words instead of responding to what you actually said? Because someone who is right does not need tricks. The truth is enough. The manipulator, on the other hand, needs you to lose your footing so they can gain position. And what do you do without falling into an endless war of "I said, you said"? You become precise and restrained. You speak less, more clearly, and if something matters, you put it in writing. Simple messages, clear agreements. Not to win, but to avoid losing yourself. You also look for a healthy reality check, a person you trust, someone who has no interest in confusing you. Because manipulation feeds on mental isolation. And there is a boundary that can save you. If someone keeps denying your experience and making you feel like your own mind is the problem, you do not need to convince them. You need distance. You do not argue with someone who is shaking the floor under your feet. You step off the floor they are shaking. This is not about having a perfect memory. It is about respecting yourself enough not to live inside a reality edited by someone else. And when you start recovering your judgment, you will notice another sign, even colder than the last. People who disappear when you are doing well but show up the moment you are vulnerable. At that point, the hatred is no longer hidden, only managed. 9. Notice if they pull away when you are doing well but show up when you are vulnerable. This is one of the most confusing signs because at first, it does not look like hatred. It looks like bad timing. It looks like life just keeps them busy. But you are moving forward, stable, full of energy, and they disappear. Then when you are falling apart, when you are sensitive, when you are afraid, suddenly they appear as if your pain triggered a notification on their phone. They are not coming for you. They are coming for what your fragility allows. When you are doing well, you set boundaries without effort. You choose, you decide, you do not beg. When you are vulnerable, your guard is down. You second-guess yourself. You look for company even when it is not good for you. You hold on to whoever comes close first. And that person knows it. That is why they are not interested in your peace. They are interested in your crack. You can hear it in the way they come back. They do not return with calm, steady presence. They return with questions, with curiosity, with that "what happened?" that sounds more like collecting information than offering care. They get you talking, get you opening up, get you reliving the drama, and then they disappear again light as ever, as if they had already eaten. In the middle of this sign, there is a question that can save you from 1,000 excuses. If you were going through a good season, would that person celebrate it with you? Or would they feel uncomfortable, distant, as if your stability bothered them? Because someone who truly loves you does not just hold you through the storm. They are also glad when the sun comes out. The one who secretly hates you gets along just fine with your sadness, because that is when they feel bigger. Epictetus, who went from slave to teacher of character, left behind a line that can reposition you when people do not respond the way you hoped. Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do happen, and your life will go smoothly. Applied here, it means something very practical. Stop expecting humanity from people who have already shown you self-interest. Accept the pattern. Do not dress it up. Peace does not come from convincing anyone. It comes from seeing clearly. So what do you do with that? You become intelligent with your vulnerability. You do not hand your most fragile side to someone who only shows up to look at blood. You lean on steady people or on silence if necessary, but not on the one who only arrives when they can feel needed. And above all, do not mistake their presence for love. Sometimes presence is just opportunity. Because once you stop opening the door in your worst moments, the final sign appears. The most direct one. The one that no longer depends on subtlety, but on boundaries. 10. See if they keep crossing your boundaries and get upset when you respect yourself. At this point, there is no poetry left. This is the core of it. The person who secretly hates you cannot stand your autonomy. It benefits them when you are accessible, available, easy to shape. It benefits them when you keep saying yes, even while swallowing your anger. And when you finally say no, when you finally draw a line, that is when their real face comes out. Because a healthy person may get frustrated, of course, but they adjust. They ask, they respect it, The person who lives by invading you does not adjust. They attack. They punish you with silence, sarcasm, guilt. They call you selfish, cold, changed, difficult, as if respecting yourself was some personal offense against them. And that is when you understand the truth. They do not miss your affection. They miss your permission. You can see it in daily life. They interrupt you, demand things from you, decide for you, use your time as if it belongs to them. If you ask them not to talk about something, they bring it up anyway. If you tell them they cannot do something with you, they try another way in. If you pull back a little, they chase you with emotional pressure. And when you stand firm, they turn you into the villain of the story. And right in the middle of this point, the question is brutally simple. Why would someone who loves you get angry because you are taking care of yourself? Think about it slowly. Real love does not fight your boundaries. Control does. The Stoic way out here is concrete. A boundary is not a long speech. It is a door. It is either closed or it is open. You do not bargain with your dignity just because you are tired. You say what it is, you hold it. And if they cross it, there is a consequence. Less access, less trust, less closeness. Not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. Because if there is no consequence, there is no boundary, only a nice sentence anyone can step on. And if it hurts to do that, that is normal. You are trained to believe that being good means enduring everything. But being good is not the same as being used. Being good means being fair, including with yourself. The moment you respect yourself, you reveal people. Some adjust because they care about you. Others get angry because they lost their grip on you. Now you have the full map. 10 signs. 10 different forms of the same thing. Someone close to you who does not want your good, but your place, your energy, or your submission. And with that comes the part that matters most. What you do once you have seen it, and can no longer pretend you have not. What you have just seen is not a catalogue of paranoia. It is a map for stopping the habit of being naive with your own life. Because someone who secretly hates you does not always shout at you. They wear you down. They strip value from you, expose you, sabotage you, enjoy your stumble, compete with you, deny you the basics, provoke you, confuse you, appear when you are weak and get furious when you stand firm. And once you connect those pieces, it becomes impossible to keep calling it normal. Now bring it into real life. You do not need a trial or a dramatic scene. You need clarity and small but firm actions. Stop sharing intimate things with people who use them. Reduce access for the ones who drain you. And when a line of respect is crossed, do not explain it 20 times, just hold it. Your peace is not negotiated. It is protected. And yes, at first it makes people uncomfortable, but I will say it plainly. It is better to make someone uncomfortable who is taking advantage of you than to betray yourself just to keep fitting in. If you made it this far, write this in the comments. I don't waste time on people who don't deserve it. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you want more tools on applied stoicism, the kind that gives you your backbone back. And if you feel like it, tell me what country you are listening from too, because this is built as a community, awake people, not perfect people. Gabriel here. This was the Stoic Garden. On your screen, you are going to see 2 recommended videos so you can keep going deeper and sharpen your judgment, because this is not just another video, it is training. See you in the next one, and remember, here, respect is not begged for, it is practiced.